and sort of offering an egalitarian and transparent selection process to create an exhibition opportunity that is accessible to everyone, and that in turn develops a creative community. So you don't have to know someone at Three Walls to get a show at Three Walls, and it helps. It just helps create an atmosphere of opportunity. And then there is, of course, the solo aspect of the solo program. So while group shows are great, a solo show can be a really important development in an artist's career. So it's an indication that an artist's work is mature and complex enough to carry an entire exhibition. And the feeling was that there were a number of artists living and working in Chicago who were ready to take this step, but without the venue in which to take the step, or without enough venues in which to take the step, I should say. We also offer artists a $500 stipend, which isn't a lot of money. We would like, if funding permits in the future, we would like to give them artists a lot more money, but it was important to us to offer a paid opportunity to send a clear message that creative practice is valued in Chicago, whether or not it's marketable, and to pay artists for the time and money that they spend on their work. So that was a big priority for us. And I think that the program has been incredibly successful in the sense that in the past round of applications, we had close to 100 applications for 3 slots. So we're only able to place 3%, about 3% of the artists applying to the program, which I think in and of itself is an indication that there's a very healthy and vibrant Chicago arts community. And many of the proposals that we see are of an extremely high caliber, and we could give shows to a lot more people if we had the space and if there was just more months in the year, but we can't. So I think that with more spaces, it would be great to see more spaces opening up because there's clearly the talent to support more spaces. So to answer the question, is there a Chicago artist anymore? Yes, there's definitely a Chicago artist. But the question then becomes, what does a qualifier Chicago really mean? And of course, that's a bit harder. From my experience at Three Walls, I don't say I could see any kind of regional style emerging from the applications. There's an extreme diversity of practice. Like Phil was saying, between Carrie Gundersdorf and temporary services, there's the whole gamut. So, and I don't think that the Chicago artist necessarily living here and working here today feels the need to respond to a particular Chicago style. You know, they don't, I mean, I feel like the conversation that they're having is one of that has a more global perspective and is more interested in global issues. So to me, what the question hinges on right now, perhaps, is an issue of visibility and opportunity for Chicago artists in coverage, because I do think that as they are thinking globally, a Chicago artist wants global exposure. So, you know, it's important for us at Three Walls that we can get the chance to offer artists a review and art forum, whatever the tenor of that review may be. It's still important that the artist can show at Three Walls and feel like they're going to be in the pages of a national paper and an international paper, and people around the world are going to be reading that. And I also think that excuse me, I'm just going to find myself in my notes. And I think that Chicago is a really interesting place from an arts administrator's perspective, because with a good idea and some initiative and a dose of the Midwestern work ethic, you can really make an impact. Three Walls started 5 years ago on $5,000 and now has 2 paid employees. So there is opportunity, there is a lot of energy here, it's just a matter of possibly tapping into it. So I guess I'll just sort of wrap up by saying that Chicago is a great place for an artist to be living and working today, but that we could use more critical coverage and perhaps like critical coverage based out of Chicago, so it's a new art examiner or something. I think that I have high hopes for proximity and for prompt, but I think that there needs to be something with a high circulation that the gallerists here feel good about advertising in, and that gets critical attention out to a wide group of people. And I think that ultimately my favorite metaphor about Chicago still kind of rings true, that it's the wild west of the art world, in the sense that there are vast amounts of untapped possibility, room for growth and development, but there's not a lot of rules. And I think that that's kind of exciting. So I'm just going to end there.
All right.
Got the button pushed?
Yep, the button's pushed.
Yes, thanks for having me on this panel. And I have to say I haven't been invited to be on a panel like this for quite a while, so that must mean something.
Yeah.
For a while there, we weren't that interested in this question, and now the question's being discussed again. And I was particularly interested in hearing what the younger members of the panel had to say, because I didn't prepare a lot of notes, and I'm probably going to be fairly brief because I'd actually like to see more of a discussion amongst us than me ranting on for a while. But from my perspective, having arrived in Chicago in 1971 and starting working at the MCA basically in 1980, where I saw a lot of art history come and go, including working on some of that art history myself, that I've been in touch with a wide range of artists, including a wide range of local artists. And it seems to me, this question of, is there Chicago art, let's be honest, it's a question that's decided by people who don't really have to deal with the ramifications of being labeled as such. It's decided by art critics, curators like myself, arts administrators, grantors, arts councils, things of that nature. So we label people, and then we sort of sit there and go, well, how do you like this label? And listen to their reaction. So the reactions that I've heard over the years, if you're basically probably 45 and older, you don't want to be called a Chicago artist. It has a really different implication, I think, for artists in their 70s, their 60s, and their 50s, because they came up in this town during a very different time and very different milieu. There are the younger artists that I'm just delighted to hear that Philip never even really thought of this until being posed. I mean, that's great. I think that's wonderful, because I'd sort of thought, from my experience of dealing with the 12 by 12 program at MCA, which is one of the things that you benefit by being resident in Chicago, because you have to be a Chicago area resident to qualify for that series. I got the feeling that, yeah, it wasn't really a question that most younger artists were encountering, at least not yet in their careers, because maybe they haven't really settled in any way that they're identifying themselves with a particular geographical community at the moment. And the third group I kind of realized that's out there and probably has no real age are those people who want a Chicago dedicated gallery at the Museum of Contemporary Art where they can for sure have their work shown and want to bring back the Chicago and Vicinity show. Laugh, please. But it is a serious issue, because it is, as I said, a convenient label for us who don't have to wear it. When you write art history, you come up with movements that you label, and people get swept up in these things, literally like a broom sweeping them in. And we kind of forget sometimes that these are real people with real feelings and careers that may or may not benefit from being labeled as such.